Hello, everyone. I wanted to show off my what I like to call an improvement for the Are You Afraid of the Dark board game. If you don't know what Are You Afraid of the Dark is, it was a show on Nickelodeon. There's new episodes now, but with this video, I assume you know what I am referring to, so I'm not going to go into a whole bunch of depth of what the show is. So yeah, they made an Are You Afraid of the Dark board game, and while I think that the overall rules and the theme of the game are fine, it's not enough. Are you afraid of the darkie? Which I know that's not an actual word, but it is what it is. So first things first, what is Are You Afraid of the Dark? Ish in the actual game. Well, obviously the name of the game itself is in the rules for it. You're trying to become a member of the Midnight Society, which is the group that meets and tells the scary stories. And then beyond that, several of the locations are based off of the episodes of the show. With that being said, several of these spots are pretty vague. I I think that maybe like they were given a list of like different areas, but didn't know what the episodes were about. For instance, and pardon me here, we got Sardo's Magic Mansion. Well, this it looks like it's an actual like house, like a giant like mansion. Well, in truth, in the show, it was like a little hole in the wall hobby shop. Zebo's Fun House. Well, first things first, it's called Laughing in the Dark, but I get why they changed it, but that doesn't look anything like Zebo. There isn't anything that looks like the character here. So, anyways, I personally get where they are coming from with some of this stuff, but it's kind of iffy. So my game plan was to try to keep this game as true to the original source as possible, but try to give some more Are You Afraid of the Darkness to it. And so I have changed the game in two ways, which I will explain here in just the next bit, to try to improve on what makes Are You Afraid of the Dark Are You Afraid of the Dark without having to completely change the game from scratch. Now, there's a bunch of stuff I would personally change if I were in charge, but I'm not, and so I'm not going to re-event the wheel here. So first things first, the objective of the game here, and I'm going to go in a real quick way here. I'm sure there are videos out there which will explain more in depth of how this game works, but I am not going to do that. So first things first, I'm going to do is just kind of explain what the goal is. So you're trying to become a member of the Midnight Society, the group of young teenage kids that tell scary stories in the woods, which is what the show really is. And so in this game, you have to get, and you have a kind of a scorecard. You have to get a 6 in all of your stats. That's what I'm going to call them. They're called stats. So you have to get a 6 in all of your stats, and whoever gets the 6 in all their stats first and gets back to the campfire, which is this spot, is the winner. And you get these points by finding different items and tools and going to different Are You Afraid of the Dark spots. And so that's totally fine. It's totally fine. I don't have anything against that. That's been like the main theme of the game here. But in the show, you didn't become a member of the Midnight Society if you went to scary spots. you had to tell a scary story, and everyone who was part of the group had to vote you in, so that you could become a member of the group. And so I've tried to kind of add that in here, and instead of calling this a secret mission sheet, I've made my own new scoring sheets, which you can't see super well because this is kind of small, but I will explain more in detail of what this stuff is. But what I am going to explain here is it's now called the scary story sheet. It's no longer called the secret mission sheet. And as much as I wanted to try to make mine kind of this horizontal way, I couldn't. And so now in my version of it, you still have to get 6 in all of your stats, return into the bonfire at the end. But in my version, every time you go to one of the spots, you make a tally mark on it. So if I went to Zeebo's Fun House 5 times and only went to the other spots 2 times or so forth, anyways, the spot that you go to the most, you will keep track of all of these, so at the end of the game, then you'll pull out a story card. Now you can use one of these story cards, you can make one of the stories up, and whichever spot you have the most, then you pull out the story card that corresponds with the most amount, and you go ahead and read what the story card has on it. So this one is the damp basement. There's a damp basement card around here somewhere. I don't know where, or not card, but spot on the map somewhere, but I don't know exactly where it's at. But I'm just trying to see if I can find it. Well, I'm not sure, but I know that there is one. And here we are. So if you went to damp basement the most times out of all the other spots here, you would then read the damp basement story. And these are just little, like a paragraph horror story. I will admit I'm not that unique, so I went on to chat GPT GPT anyways, and said hey, write me a paragraph horror story based around a damp basement. Some are actually fairly good. Now if you're a little more unique than I am, you could tell a story about a damp basement there, just on the spot. The point is that in the actual Are You Afraid of the Dark show, the people had to tell a scary story to become a member of the group, not just go to different spots. So I was trying really hard to still kind of incorporate kind of the story elements here, while not having to change around too much of the game. I feel I didn't have to really change around any of the game here. I mean, once again, you still have to get your 6 stats and everything returned to the campfire. You're just now going out of your way to mark down which spots you have been to, so you can tell a story at the end of it. So in the game, how you get your 6 stats points is you have to go to various spots here, and you get points as you go. And to help you get those points, you find tools, and the tools help you in the secret passages. So the tools in the original game are pretty basic. Skeleton key. I mean, that's about, sure, they use a skeleton key in the Book of Shadows, but that wasn't out yet when this game was made. Skeleton key, motion detector. Okay, a flashlight. It's you got a compass, which kind of looks like an orange in this picture, but I'm not an artist, so I can't judge. Signal flare. Anyways, I'm not going to go through all these cards. The point I'm trying to make here is the tools in this game don't really jump out as like, oh hey, like I recall the episode where they use a signal flare to defeat the monster. I mean, and so I went in and I made some new cards to be kind of more so, are you afraid of the dark things? Super specs. That's an Are You Afraid of the Dark item. Egyptian Friendship Stone, which there is a card where I didn't change it and it's still called the Carved Stone. And I said, oops. Anyways, and so, there's Twisted Claw. I'm not an artist and I don't pretend to be. And so some of these are pictures I just kind of found off of the internet with some Photoshop, like very, very brief Photoshop tampering to them. Anyways, Curious Camera, Dream Machine, Mysterious Book, Mystic Mirror, Magic Staff, Shiny Red Bicycle. And so these are more, in my opinion, Are You Afraid of the Dark items than Signal Flare, Night Vision Goggles. Like, again, there isn't anything wrong with these items. They just don't really, scream to me, are you afraid of the dark? And so anyways, you use these tools with these secret passage cards. And again, the secret passage cards help you get points faster, but you have to have the tools or enough stat points to use them. So secret passage, let's see here. There are 3 or 4 high walls which stand between you and the building with the 13th floor. And so we're talking about the 13th floor here, and a rope will do the trick. It's fine if this were any other game, but it's an Are You Afraid of the Dark game. And so the thing is, we're talking about the 13th floor, which in that episode, where it was aliens who showed up to try to get their kid. And so let's use something here that's a little more 13th flourish. And I'm just going off here. Let's see here. A power failure until means you'll need night vision goggles to lead you through the west tunnel to the pitch black basement of apartment 214. And it's like, okay, well, that's the episode where the ghost lady lived in the apartment. And it's like, so what is night vision? What do night vision goggles have to do with this gal? What does this have to do with anything? Like use some references to the actual show. And so I tried to make new secret passage cards which had a little bit more, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm not gonna say they are perfect. Some of them are like a real stretch. There's there's one where it's like, your friend has been captured and you need to use cutter sword to go and save him. And so they are not perfect, but there's still at least more Are You Afraid of the Darkish. And so if this were to focus in here, you need to get somewhere fast, somewhere that's not the campfire. Thankfully, you have your shiny red bicycle for speed and your big mistakes eraser for any trouble. And so, hey, that's using items. I'm trying to get to one that has, okay. I will get to these here very soon. Here, let's put that one there. Yeah, sorry, I'm just trying to get this to focus in. That Dr. Vink sure seems to have many talents. Okay, I'm talking about Dr. Vink here. I'm trying to use characters. Here's one. At least I think this. Yeah, so this is the same card, my version versus their version of it. So again, there are 3 or 4 high walls which stand between you and the building with the 13th floor. Blah blah blah. So so that's their card. My version, you heard there was a new toy factory on the 13th floor, and you want to check it out. Maybe you can fix your Super Soaker gun, which in this case, that's from Tale of the Pinball Wizard. It's been requiring a lot of strength to pull the trigger. Anyway, so some of these are like, all right, Tommy, you're really stretching here, but the results of the card are the exact same, but instead of you having to use a rope, you need the Super Soaker gun. And the toy factory on the 13th floor makes more sense than having to climb several walls in order to get at the building that it is. And so I'm not going to say that these cards are perfect, because they're not, and I don't want you to misunderstand me here. But the game plan is that they have more Are You Afraid of the Dark references in themes than what the game was. Really quick, going back to Zeebo here. Let me see if I can find a card that has this real quick. Here's one, I think. Okay, so on the secret mission cards, or sorry, these secret passage cards, if you get a skull, then you have to go into the pit, which is kind of like your timeout box, and so those are still there, but instead I try to actually add Are You Afraid of the Dark monsters. That would make more sense, instead of just a skull. And so I have Zeebo, I have Ghastly Grinner, I have the corpse from Dead Man's Float, Nosferatu, I think Renegade's Virus. Maybe there's another one, but the point is that the skull cards are not actual Are You Afraid of the Dark monster cards. So I think that really wraps up the game. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel here. I'm not trying to completely change this. I'd say, I could change stuff on the board. I'm not an artist. I don't have enough skill to completely remake this board. So I'm trying to keep the best I can with what is already here, but try to just give it a little bit more of an Are You Afraid of the Dark feel here, without having to change a whole bunch of stuff. So mostly the tools are different. The secret passage cards are different, and then again, which here I'll show you this, and you can't see it, and that's one of the only things, is you can't tell what the pictures are super well, but I tried to use more Are You Afraid of the Dark items. You might say a Walkman. Well, that was supposed to be a reference to the kid and the hatchling that blows up the monster. Anyways, so you still have all your points, but you're supposed to keep track of all the areas that you have been to, so that you can either tell your own story or at least read off one of these already written stories for you. And so yeah, I don't think there's anything else with it. Hopefully that makes sense. Again, I know I didn't go too much in depth with the overall rules of the game, but I'm sure you can find what the rules are. And so thanks a bunch.